the quietest corners of the Smithsonian institution, there are files that seem to hold their breath. One is marked simply, Boas, F. Arctic Expedition, 1884, Anomaly Report. It contains a story of a hunt across the ice, a man running for his life. But the snow behind him held only one set of footprints, his own. The author of this report was Franz Boas, a founding father of modern anthropology, a mind defined by rigorous, unyielding logic. And yet, this man of science documented a predator that left no trail, an encounter so fundamentally wrong it was quietly filed away, becoming a ghost in the official record. The question isn't just what he saw. The real mystery is what it takes for a man like that to report the impossible. To understand what it takes for a mind like that to report the impossible, we have to go back. Back to a time and a place where the world of reason met its absolute edge. The year is 1884. The place is Baffin Island, a vast, white emptiness in the high Arctic. For months on end, there is no sun, only a permanent, crushing twilight. The air is so thin, so brutally cold, that the moisture in a man's nose freezes instantly, sticking his nostrils together with every single breath. And there is the silence, a silence so profound it feels like a physical pressure. The endless fields of snow don't reflect sound. They swallow it. It's as if the world outside has been put on mute. Into this world walks a 26-year-old man named Franz Boas. He's not yet the father of modern anthropology. Right now, he is a physicist and a geographer, a man of numbers and laws. He's here on a scientific mission to do what he does best, to measure, to chart, to map the unmapped coastlines and bring order to a landscape that has none. For him, the universe is a system of knowable, physical rules. To survive, he does what is necessary. He lives among the Inuit, sharing their igloos, learning their language. He listens, patiently, as an elder tells a story by the flickering light of a seal oil lamp. A story about a spirit that hunts on the ice, a creature that moves like the wind and leaves no tracks. Boas nods, his face showing nothing but polite interest. But then he turns away, back to the small, protected circle of his own light. Back to his compass, his chronometer, his meticulously drawn charts. The story is data, yes, but it is cultural data. A fiction. It has no place on his map of the physical world. In that small, snow-domed shelter, surrounded by his instruments, Boas is safe. His skepticism is a shield, his logic a fortress against the vast, unnerving emptiness of the polar night. He believes he knows the laws that govern this place, and he is certain that nothing can exist outside of them. Then, a sound begins that is not on any of his maps. A moment ago, the igloo had been a tight, quiet pocket of warmth, pressed into the endless cold. Now that calm is punctured by a thin, high-pitched whining from the sled dogs outside. Not a bark, but throats pulled tight. They are hardened, territorial animals, not pets. Yet there is no anger in the noise at all. The whining sharpens into frantic yelps. You hear claws rake at the ice-block door, scraping as if the animals are trying to tunnel through the frozen wall. Heavy bodies slam against the packed snow, throwing their full weight toward the inside. Boas and the Inuit elder, who serves as his guide, trade a brief glance. The older man's jaw tightens. The assault on the walls ends in a single, brutal cut. No fading, no last whimper, just absence. Silence drops into the igloo like weight on the roof. In that cold stillness, the elder finally speaks, eyes fixed on the blocked doorway. A bear makes them angry, he says. This makes them silent. Boas goes motionless. The stories he has been collecting, the myths he filed as cultural data, described this exactly. Dogs driven to terror by something that never showed itself, only its effect. That pattern now presses against their door. The silence holds for a long, thin breath. From the low entrance tunnel comes a new sound. Close, frantic scraping. Not paws. A human. Fighting the ice. Trying desperately to get in. In the breath after the silence, frantic scraping starts in the tunnel. Boots slipping, hands beating at ice. Everyone turns toward the sound. A body spills out of the tunnel's mouth and hits the snow. He lands on his knees and crawls, not stands. A man, one of the hunters. No blood, no torn fur. His chest drags at the air, mouth opening and closing without sound, as if the cold has locked his voice away. He is Alua, the camp's most reliable Inuit hunter, the man Boas has seen walk alone into white emptiness and return with meat and a precise report of the ice. The one who explains thin ice in calm, simple phrases. Now his gloved fingers claw at the floor. A fine tremor runs through his shoulders. His eyes, usually narrowed against the glare, are blown wide in the lamplight, sliding over familiar faces as if they are strangers. He tips backward. His heels skid on the snow, and the fit hits. His back arches, boots hammering the hard floor, fur hood thudding against ice. His arms jerk, fingers splayed, as if something is shaking him from the inside. White foam gathers at the corners of his mouth. Each spasm forces out a wet, choking rasp that ricochets off the curved walls, and then leaves a silence so sharp it seems to press on the lamp's small flame. While the others hang back, Boas is already moving. His urgency is controlled, almost practiced. He drops to his knees beside Alua, forcing his mind to sort what it sees. Sudden collapse, convulsions, froth, no wound, thumb to wrist, strong pulse. He knows this pattern from his reading. Piblokto, Arctic hysteria, a break under strain and cold. The name settles over the scene, even as a small, unwelcome thought reminds him that Alua is the last hunter he expected to see inside it. The spasms fade. Alua slumps on the hard snow, chest heaving. Boas keeps his fingers on the pulse until it steadies and tells himself the fit is over. A known condition. Across the igloo, the elder still has not moved, his gaze fixed on the tunnel. Boas reaches for his notebook, expecting slurred fragments he can file under stress. Instead, Alua's eyes sharpen and lock on his, and his first hoarse words reach calmly past the diagnosis Boas has just chosen, as if they have no place inside it. His words were not a scream, they were a whisper, dry and brittle in the lamplit air. It was naked, Alua says, his voice raspy, his gaze fixed on something far beyond the walls of the igloo. Its skin was like thick and black and leathery. He describes a thing that ran him down across the ice, a creature in the shape of a massive, dark dog, but utterly without hair. Its movements were impossibly fast, unnaturally silent. It didn't pant or bark, it just came. Boas listens, his pen already moving in his notebook. He lets Alua finish, lets the story hang in the air, thick with a primitive fear he refuses to acknowledge. Then, he closes his notebook with a soft, definitive snap. He looks at the elder, his voice calm, measured, the voice of a professor addressing a student. It's quite simple, really. A textbook case. The animal he describes is a wolf. A very large one, certainly, but a wolf nonetheless. One suffering from a severe case of sarcoptic mange. The disease causes total hair loss, and the skin becomes thick, dark, and leathery. A sick, desperate animal would be unusually aggressive. He delivers the diagnosis with a quiet, final confidence. The monster has been captured, explained, reduced to a biological footnote. Order is restored. The elder, who has been listening without a change in expression, slowly shakes his head. Not in disagreement, in clarification. He speaks quietly, his voice barely rising above the hiss of the lamp. Yet every word lands with the weight of stone. A sick wolf would leave tracks. A deep silence falls in the igloo. Boas stares at him. The elder meets his gaze, his eyes ancient and clear. "This thing," he says, pausing just long enough for the impossible thought to form, "did not leave footprints." No footprints. The three words are a solvent, dissolving the entire logical structure Boas had just built. A gear inside his mind grinds to a halt. A physical entity, heavy enough to run, to chase a man across the ice, leaves no physical trace. It is a violation. It's not possible. For a chilling second, his own records flash in his memory. An old myth he documented. The Qiqirn, described by the Inuit as a phantom in the shape of a huge dog, almost without hair. He pushes the thought away. Folklore was a distraction. There was only one thing that mattered now. The contradiction. The impossible puzzle laid out on the blank, white canvas of the Arctic. He had to see the evidence for himself, not the stories. The snow. The door closed behind him, and the sound was swallowed at once by the air. Armed with his rifle and a single oil lantern, Franz Boas stepped into the polar night. The cold took him immediately, biting at his face, turning his breath to a thin, cracking mist. The lantern threw a small yellow circle onto the snow, and then the light stopped, walled in by the dark. He was not thinking about the cold. He was thinking about the stories, the lines of careful ink in his folklore notes, the elder's voice describing a hunter that left no tracks in new snow, and the heavy silence when Boas had pressed for more. He had walked past that silence and out the door anyway. Spirit or no spirit, anything that moved in this world had to leave evidence. The snow would prove it. He lowered the lantern, searching for the pattern that would turn folklore back into physics. And there it was. The yellow light spilled across a deep, clear set of footprints. Alua's tracks. Not wandering, but running. Each print driven hard into the surface, toe dug in, stride flung long and uneven. The path of a man running for his life. Boas began to follow, keeping his steps slow, deliberate. His boots cracked the new snow, leaving a second line of holes behind Alua's. His world shrank to the fragile sphere the lantern could hold open. Inside it, the sharp relief of prints and drift. Beyond it, a wall of darkness that seemed to lean in, swallowing even the faint scrape of his movement. Inside the circle, the evidence. Outside, a silent weight pressing at its edge. He swept the light from side to side, the way he would scan a specimen tray, looking for the missing pattern. The second set of tracks, the pursuer. Wind, he told himself first. The Arctic wind could scour a man's passage away. Perhaps it had shaved off the hunter's prints and left Alua's by chance. He dropped into a crouch, brought the lantern close so its heat brushed his glove, and studied the edges of the trail. Each footprint stood with walls sharp and vertical, crystals still glittering on the rims. No feathering, no blurred side where drifting snow had crept in. Whatever wind had moved here tonight had been too gentle to choose one set of tracks and not the other. He kept walking a little farther, counting Alua's strides in small sets, as if numbers might steady his thoughts. Another answer came, and he almost welcomed it. A buried crust of older, harder ice under the powder. Something heavier could have run on that hidden layer and barely marked the surface. He stopped, set the rifle upright beside the nearest print, and drove the butt straight down. It sank through loose, untouched snow until his glove nearly touched the ground. No resistance, no hidden ice waiting to take that weight. Fine. Then perhaps the pursuer had stepped into Alua's footprints, print inside print. a predator tracking perfectly in its prey's path. It was the kind of mistake a tired observer could make, and he disliked how reasonable it sounded. He knelt, moved the lantern low and off to the side so the light raked across the impressions, and brushed along the rims with his glove, feeling for a second ridge, a skewed edge, any asymmetry. Every mark he checked came back the same. One man's boots, repeating faster and deeper, but always alone. For a moment he reached for temperature, melt and refreeze, lighter tracks softening and collapsing back into smoothness. He cut the thought off almost as soon as it formed. The snowfall was new. Even the fine sprays of powder his own steps had kicked up still held their combed, granular texture. Nothing here had sagged or blurred. Whatever else had moved with Alua had not simply faded away. He stopped advancing. The pattern in front of him had not changed, but he needed to see all of it at once. He straightened slowly and raised the lantern as high as his arm would allow. The light spilled out in a wider circle, washing over the trackway. Alua's footprints ran away into the night in a tight, stumbling line, each toe driven deep, each heel gouged out as if something had been at his back. The snow had taken that panic faithfully. It showed every hesitation, every sudden lengthening of stride. Behind Boas, his own path from the door stood in twin rows, rough-walled holes, with little fans of powder thrown forward from each step. The scattered scars where he had tested the depth with the rifle butt lying like small wounds off to the side. Everywhere the snow acknowledged weight and movement. It recorded his presence in exhaustive detail. But along Alua's trail, on either side of those frantic impressions, the surface shone back at the lantern in a flat, unbroken sheen. No second set of marks weaving in or out. No shallow scuff at the edges, where something lighter had brushed past. No faint line of claws or pads catching the low light when he traced the ground with his eyes. The snow was not empty. It was refusing. It had written the path of the hunted and left a blank where the hunter should have been. Boas held the lantern there, arm trembling now with the strain, until the frame fixed itself. One clear, desperate chain of footprints leading out into the dark, bordered in every direction by untouched, indifferent snow. He doesn't know how long he stood there, lantern weight dragging at his arm, fingers numb around the handle. The wind combed the snow smooth until the field ahead was a blank white plain where his thoughts refused to land. A crunch in the snow beside him. He didn't flinch. The elder stepped out from the dark of the village, eyes on the same empty expanse that refused to give back a single track. The old man spoke, his voice a low murmur under the wind. He told Boas he was searching for the wrong kind of proof. Tracks in the snow instead of the stories that had already named what hunted here. Qiqirn, he called it. Some, he added, said Qiqirn. Boas waited, breath held tight in his chest. He shifted his weight toward the village, boots rasping on packed ice, the lantern handle biting into his palm as his grip locked. The part of him that trusted measurements searched for a loophole. Any mistranslation, any way out. The elder left him none. A huge dog, almost without hair, he said. Hair only at the mouth. A pause so small the wind almost swallowed. And on the feet. For a silent moment, nothing moved. The lantern glass ticked as his hand began to shake. In that sound, the logic locked into place. Hair on the paws, spreading its weight, muffling every impact. A built-in snowshoe leaving no impression. A fringe brushing back through each shallow mark, sweeping its trail clean. He took an involuntary step backward, the light skittering over untouched white. The scientist who had followed tracks on the ice was gone. In his place stood a man who finally understood he was prey. The field in front of them stayed blank. No paw prints, no churned snow, no sign anything heavy had crossed. Whatever hunted here didn't defy the world. It used it so cleanly the ice refused to remember. With the panic gone, a colder dread settled in. The explanation was sound. What does a man of evidence do when the truth shouldn't exist? Boas did the only thing he knew, wrote it into his field notes, and sent them south, where the Qiqirn sat for almost a century in the Smithsonian's ethnographic files. The story does not end in the Arctic darkness. It ends in the halls of science, under the faint hiss of gas flames. Franz Boas, a man who built his work on measurement and reason, did not return and file this away as a trick of the light or a hallucination. He could have folded it into folklore or left it out so his data stayed clean. Instead, he treated the encounter like currents or ice thickness, something observed and therefore recorded. He did not try to tame it with an explanation. He described what his party saw and fixed it into the official record beside tables, maps, and measurements. That choice matters, because it means the impossible predator did not remain a story. It crossed into the paperwork of science. The description appears in his section, The Central Eskimo. That report was published in the 6th Annual Report of the Bureau of Ethnology to the Secretary of the Smithsonian Institution, 1884-1885, a formal reference volume, not rumor. Buried in its columns of type, he wrote, "A phantom in the shape of a huge dog, almost without hair. Hair only at the mouth, feet, ear tips, and tail." One stray sentence, a ghost in the machine of evidence. There it is. Not a myth, but an observation, filed and cataloged in the heart of American science. A fracture at the edge of the known, hard to smooth over. And it leaves one uneasy question. If this line sits in the archives, unnoticed, what else is hiding in the files? For more than a century, the Qiqirn has existed as a line in the Smithsonian Institution archives, inside Franz Boas's 1884 Arctic Ethnological Report. Filed among other observations and field notes, official data, not campfire talk, it has a chilling permanence, signed by the man who would become the father of American anthropology. Boas did something radical with that line. He let an impossible predator share space with the rest of his data, without a warning label. In a record built to domesticate the unknown, he allowed one thing to stay wild. That decision means the archive catalogs not only what the Arctic is, but what it should not be able to contain. He documented a creature that slid across ice and water in a way his physics could not explain. The report does not argue or resolve. It simply notes the event and moves on. A perfect anomaly, observed, recorded with rigor, and then left alone, because it didn't fit the known laws of our world. If one contradiction like that can sit inside the catalog of a museum, it suggests something unnerving about the record. For every ghost we can point to in the machinery of science, how many others have been filed under headings we never think to question? How many entries are marked as unusual and then buried in the stacks? Picture that page now, under archival light, the ink fading, but still legible. Then let it dissolve back into where it came from. A frozen shoreline. Arctic water, black and depthless beyond the ice. The air so still, the sea holds its breath. In a world that keeps such nights and such depths, what other impossible truths have been archived by experts? What other ghosts are waiting in that pressure and silence, just beyond the reach of our maps and our models? Franz Boas, a father of modern anthropology, chose to record the Qiqirn not as myth, but as an observed phenomenon. Where is the line between science and the unexplainable? Share your thoughts in the comments.